Hi, welcome to the Edit Q&A edition. I'm your host, Ryan Powell, and I'm joined by Laura Payne to answer your questions about entrepreneurship, small business, and culture in Wales. So, Laura, should we just dive right in?
Definitely. Let's go for it.
Cool. So, I got the first one from Vic in Denby, and it's what are the best practices for creative businesses in Wales to build a strong brand and reach a wider audience? Great question.
It is, and I thought it crossed over to a little bit what you do as well in your personal businesses as well. And best practices, I think everybody will have their own perception on what a best practice is or what they feel that it should be priority. But there's a couple of things that keep on coming up. It's obviously utilizing the digital platforms. In our previous episode, we talked a lot about social media and just using that to your advantage, that free tool. And I think maximizing your online presence through social media is really key. I think that's how you can get a wider reach quite quickly and also engage with other businesses or even collaborate with similar businesses as well. Yeah, in terms of building a strong brand, now I know that you have built the Wonder Cinema and yeah, do you have any sort of tips and tricks as well around that? Because I feel it's
Yeah.
slightly creative business as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think one thing that we always say to each other, especially like in our team, is like we get brand fatigue, as we call it, like really quickly. So we're stuck seeing the same colors, the same the same messaging all the time, and we get really sick of it. And then
Yeah.
we go, yeah, maybe we should use this blue instead of this blue. But all you got to remember is like you see your brand like 400 times, and your audience have only seen it 4 times. And what we tend to find is like we can't switch up the brand. We can't, we're creatives. We want to change things constantly. It's just like it's in our blood. Like we have to do it. But it's like it's actually not good because the customer again, they start warming up to you.
Yeah.
You start warming up to that brand and then you end up changing it. So I definitely say once you found like a brand and you found your message, best way to build it is just to keep going with it. Do not keep changing it. Don't think, oh, it needs a change. Like that's why it's not sticking. It's not sticking because people are busy probably
Yeah.
and they've seen you once or twice. You've seen yourself 400 times. So I definitely say that. I definitely say don't get fooled by brand fatigue when you are trying to build something. And then just stick to your messaging.
That's what
I
I
think for us,
that's what
yeah,
I was
for us
gonna
it's
say
build
with telling your story a little bit, sharing how you got to where you are. I'm pretty sure that you are relatable to a number of people out there, and it's using those relatable keys, I think, in your messaging to get the message across to those, to get the sort of attention of new potential clients or businesses, community groups, wherever you're, whatever industry or sector you're in. And it's back to community as well, with something that we mentioned again last episode is building your community. And I think that's something that you've done really well with the cinema as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. My head's gonna go massive now. My ego is gonna
But you're
go through
right.
the roof.
But you're right. Like you get a branding, you get your branding and you put it out there, then you start building not just the story behind the branding, but you also build your structure, your frame around it. And this is who we are. This is what we do. This is what we provide. And the messaging is really clear. I think collaborating again with other businesses and local community groups, local businesses, get in touch with them, pop in, go have a coffee, have a chat with somebody. You never know where those conversations are going to come out. And again, if you are struggling, there is support, there is funding available for certain businesses. So it's worth having a look and having a bit of a Google search around your area as well. Again, you're in a different area to me, so you experience a little bit different. But
Yeah, for us. It's I like to think of. I think I'll bring up Disney every episode because they're like something we model off. But I think they do it well because everything they write has these like star emojis and like magic stuff because that's who they are. And I think you have a really good brand if people say, "Oh, that's very much." If I go to see a musical or something and I go, "Oh, this reminds me of Disney," I was like, "That song was very Disney." I think that's what an incredible brand. Like the fact that I'm using you as a describing word, I'm basically going, oh, it's like that means you've obviously set a great tone. It's something I'd love to achieve in my own business when people go, oh, that's very much like Wonder Cinema. I wonder how we'd eventually do that. But that kind of thing, like sticking with your tone, it is as well. When you like scroll through someone like social platforms, it's really good if they all not all look the same, but they all like definitely fill that theme. Like again,
Yeah,
if it's
and it's
colors and brand tone and all that kind of thing, I think that's huge important.
yeah, I agree, and it's brand recognition. I remember when I first started my business, our logo is very basic. It's not too graphic-y, it's we haven't put a huge amount of time. I knew what I wanted, and it's basically the shape of a heart, and it's our name on the bottom, and that's our logo. But when I was going out to networking meetings and I was meeting people for the first time, they were like, "You're the one with the heart logo, aren't you?"
Yeah,
And it's weird, but these things stick. And yeah, they recognize us through our logo. It doesn't actually tell a story of what we do and how we do it, but they've obviously have that we have that brand recognition that they can go out there and go, that's LCVA.
sure.
And
No,
it's great. And hope like building, you have to build obviously your network around you and build a little bit more within the branding and have consistency throughout, which is exactly what you just said. When you are creating a brand, try not to be reactive and a little bit all over the place. Try and have a branding guideline or something in place where you can go back to if you feel like you're falling off track a little bit, to bring you back on to this is the branding that I decided, this is the branding that I want to go ahead with and what I want people to see. And it's having those tools in place as well, I think, to rein you back in when you do feel a little bit creative.
yeah, yes, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask you your first question. And the first question is from Emma from Swansea. How can I
Cool.
apply for develop? How can I? Sorry, I'll do it again.
Right.
From and the first question is from Emma from Swansea. How can I apply for a development loan for my startup?
Fab, cool. So I assume what they mean here is like the Development Bank of Wales loan because they're from Swansea as well. But what I'll do is I'll cover the Development Bank of Wales loan and also cover the startup loan company because sometimes people get them confused, or at least like in my experience, people have gone, "Oh yeah, I'm going for development loan," and they're going for startup loan and vice versa. And plus, if we have any UK listeners, I didn't want to just cover like the Wales one. I thought it'd be good if we tackle like the startup loans, which is
Yeah.
UK wide anyway. So Development Bank, I assume because you say for a startup, you're probably looking for a micro loan, which is anywhere from 1,000 to 50,000. So that's what the micro loan covers. And it's targeted at SMEs, only available in Wales. But the interest rates, they vary between 4 and 12%. Whereas a startup loan, which is UK wise, you can only get up to £25,000, but it's 6% APR fixed per annum. So it is really how much money do you need? So if you need like just up to 25,000, maybe it is like a safer bet to go for a startup loan because at least then you're like, okay, it's the fixed rate. So maybe check your rates. Obviously, this is not financial advice. This is just financial education. Gotta put that disclaimer there. But yeah, definitely assess like what your needs are. The startup loans are more aimed at startup costs. And it sounds really stupid, but they don't really cover like running costs, like your weekly, like maybe you got X amount on like rent and staffing and all that kind of thing. Like you just your normal operational costs. They don't really look to cover that. They look to like cover mainly like your one time startup, get off the ground, whether that be like training for staff, new equipment for the office, like whatever it is, anything that's considered like almost like a one time payment, if you will. They'll help with that initial. Development Bank, though, is a bit more like flexible. So Development Bank of Wales will actually cover, they might actually look at operation costs and things like that. It's actually a bit more for working capital. So it is just assessing your needs and then going through it. But I will say before you go for any of, well, either of those two options, consider literally all your options. There's crowdfunding. It just depends on what you need. There's cash flow loans if you started trading already and you've cash flow loan is where you use your payment provider. So I'm with Square and PayPal and they might offer you something. So definitely consider like all the ways of funding. Don't just think, oh, I've got to get a development bank loan. Just have a look at all of them. And because you're in your infancy, a lot of the time that they are like personally guaranteed. So that's something to also take note on. But yeah, I think that's my answer there. It was quite
Yeah,
comprehensive.
definitely. And you're right. I think you need to sit back and yes, you acknowledge that you need funding to get your business off the ground or get that starting point. But you also need to be sure of what you want funding for before you go into it. So maybe, as I always do, write a list And yeah, and put down in that list what you want to achieve in the first year and how that funding is going to help you get to it. I think it's really drilling down on the detail so you can plan ahead, and also plan if you do get that funding. If you get minimum funding, then you can be able to do plan A. If you get more funding than you expected, then you can maybe move on to plan B. And it's using it and utilizing it to your advantage as best possible, I think, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because this person, so they asked how can they apply, and I just told them like the options, but how to apply is just online. But normally they'd require a cash flow, a profit and loss, and then a business plan as well. Usually supporting documents. So make sure you have all that. If you don't actually know how to do one, there are so many great things on YouTube. I learned how to do a cash flow from YouTube. And I've never looked back. It was the
Yes.
only video I ever needed for it. And it was so good. I wish I could remember so I could recommend it, like who it was. But honestly, yeah, that's what they will require. And it might seem, oh gosh, I got to do all this. But I will say, like, when you're doing stuff like that, you're doing a cash flow, you're doing your profit and loss, you're knowing your figures. And then it'll ask you, like, who your market is, who mainly buys off you, how do they buy off you, all that kind of stuff. It really makes you think like a business owner. It sounds really stupid.
Yeah.
It can really take you from like solopreneur, as we also call them, just like a one man band, to, oh, I'm growing a business. I think when you apply for loans, you realize that, oh, these are the areas of the business maybe I'm lacking on, or
Yeah.
maybe I'm doing good on. I like doing a business plan, actually. It makes you think, oh, maybe I haven't thought everything through.
It's a bit of a review process as well for you, isn't it? It's going back over old ground, but actually, because you've learned so much in the meantime, you can apply your new skills and new tricks to it, basically. And yeah, I think planning it out beforehand is only going to benefit you, not just during the application process, but going forward as well. I love a plan. If anyone knows me, they know I love a plan. Yeah,
Same.
I will definitely recommend it when you're in business. But yeah,
Fab. Cool. I got a question for you. It's from Maria in Cardiff. It's how can creative businesses in Wales benefit from the growing demand for digital content and services? This is good.
yeah, so we're still on the subject of social media. I think website, any digital content you can, and when you are starting a business, especially a creative one, you have no remit. So you can be as creative as you want. You can apply your skills to the best situation that you can. So, for example, I wouldn't have necessarily called myself a creative when I first started running a business, but now going further down the line, I've had to be creative in the ways that we do business sometimes because you have to be innovative. You have to follow the trends, like we've mentioned before. You need to expand and reach your audiences. And that can be done in many different ways. It can be online, it can be heading to networking groups, or just, I know that Development Bank of Wales, I know that we talked about Compass, the Welsh Cooperative, they put events on for businesses. And if there's a topic that sort of you fancy going to learn a little bit more about, or something that you're already actually in business doing, then go ahead, go to it, because unless you move yourself out of that comfort zone, I don't think you're ever going to really grow to your full potential. You always got to keep pushing yourself. And being in business is hard because if you're a single person in business, so I'm the only director of LCBA, it can be isolating on times. I know that you work with your partner and that's great because you bounce off each other and can bounce ideas. But when you're sitting at the top, especially we all work remotely. So again, we're not your traditional sort of business in an office. And you have to surround those people that are going to uplift you, that absolutely get what you're trying to do and what you're trying to sell to the world. And it's making connections, like collabs can come from anywhere. We know that this collab has
Yeah.
just come out as well.
Yeah.
You never know where the next sort of phone call is going to take you. And I think it's really important to just improve, continuously improving and lifelong learning, I think.
Yeah. That's a great answer. I don't even know it. Anything to add? Yeah. No
Brilliant.
info
Thank
on
you.
me.
And I've got another question for you. It's from Lucas from Caerphilly. What are the best practices for managing a remote team?
Fab. Okay. First off, it's dropping the negativity surrounding like a remote team. I think there's like there's mixed opinions. Like it's a bit marmitey for a lot of people. You either love it, you hate it. Chances are most employees, or at least most people I've spoken to, especially again employees, no, not business owners, enjoy it a lot. It's the freedom. It's definitely the ability to take care of children, take care of pets, all that kind of thing. So definitely drop in the negativity. There's this fear as a business owner, and just for full disclosure, I manage a remote team. Sometimes it's, are they doing the work that they should? Could I? And you want to squeeze. I don't want to say squeeze like time out of them, but you've got them for X amount of hours. You definitely want a lot done. But I would definitely, if you've hired the right people, try your best to drop that notion that are they working and drop that fear. Because if you approach remote working with that fear and with that worry that they're not doing enough, then you're only going to bleed that into the team. So I try and remain calm. I try not like to be on their backs as if I'm worrying that they're doing nothing. Because if I treat them like they're doing nothing, then they'll start doing
Yeah.
nothing. You know.
I had a
But
similar question asked to me recently. LCBA is built on flexible working. That was my passion from the start. And in order to have flexible working, you have to really implement home working to make it work. And I know that when somebody asked me it recently, I said remote working can work, working from home can work as long as it's managed properly. You have to set boundaries. Although you want to
yeah,
be as flexible as possible, you do have to set those boundaries so it makes it fair for all of the team together.
yeah, I think it's like clear communication. So we use Slack, but obviously people use like different,
Yeah.
which is just like a messaging service. But people might use WhatsApp, Facebook, whatever. But we use it because you can set statuses on there. My team can set like a thing that says, "Oh, I'm on the school run," or "I'm doing this," and we give like flexibility to do that as long as you let us know in advance. Something I'm like huge on, not just with remote work, but general work, is like when someone like signs a contract, sometimes like an employment contract now, like the amount of people that don't know what's in their employment contract is like baffling to me. Like they just don't read it.
People don't
Um,
read it.
and I'm huge on it. Like before people start, I send them the contract, and I also send them like key points that are in that contract as bullet points in the email because I believe that look, here is actually the disciplinary procedure. Here is what is okay and what's not. Here's how you take breaks properly, and then I will ask them before they start. Do you understand all this? So we get on the same page. And then that way, if they break something and they don't do it, I'm like, you agreed to this on a call with me, which is recorded. But
And I think in business in general, I was talking to somebody the other day, I think that worked in the NHS, and it's about, and I don't know the best way to put it, but it's about covering your arse. It's like, I don't know how to, yeah, sugarcoat that one anymore. But if you've said something, you have to make sure that it's in writing. And it's
that's it.
important that a lot of things are put in writing because I know, gosh, the amount of messages, the amount of emails and WhatsApps that I get in a day that they are, they're flying in from everywhere. And
Yeah.
with voice notes, you can say something, but it's great if it's task related and it's something that somebody can just get on with and do. But if you know that there could be implications further down the line, if it didn't go to plan as such, then you do have to make sure that you send it in the email. And I think
Yeah.
that's just a little bit of common practice. But I know that there's still some people that wouldn't acknowledge having to do that if they were in a tricky situation.
Yeah, and I think it's also just going back to home working specifically. Something that we definitely find is that there are going to be times where the staff aren't doing anything, and sometimes it's on us as managers, owners that we haven't actually given them anything. But something I like to do as well is actually tell my team I'm aware they haven't got anything. So if it's, "Oh, I know you haven't got anything on at the minute, just take it easy this morning, and I'll give you some stuff." I think doing that, at least for me, sets the thing that I'm okay with sometimes being quieter.
Yeah.
I'm actually aware that we're quiet right now. So you don't have to lie to me and say that. And I'm happy for you to have it off just for this morning. And then we'll get back to it in the afternoon. Instead of them like having to pretend they're doing something. I just like the
And
honesty. Just like, yeah, there's nothing on right now because I haven't given you anything. That's on me. Take it easy. We'll come back to it. It's
exactly. Our work, I think the majority of our team are looking after elderly relatives, or we've got young children. And for example, I know that one of the girls had to go and pick the the child up from school, and that was in the middle of
Really?
the day, and it was an emergency phone call. And I'm just like, close your
Yeah.
laptop, go and pick the child up, sort the child out, and then come back to it when you're a little bit de-stressed afterwards. With a lot of our work, it's not hugely time sensitive. So I think we have that benefit in the team, and you never know when you need to rush off and do something quickly. And I think just having that
Yeah.
open communication with each other, being open about situations going on at home, if there is something that your manager needs to know, have that conversation, because then things can be put in place to ease your stress load as well as you maybe your workload as well. And stress is a massive factor in a lot of situations, and you can prevent it a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I've got another question for you, and it's from Cardiff again. So this is Garen from Cardiff, and it's how can small creative businesses in Wales access funding and grants to support their projects?
I've had a little look myself. I do know of a few agencies or organizations that could help. But the ones that really spring to mind when I saw the question was Creative Wales. They offer various funding opportunities tailored specifically to the creatives in Wales. You've also got Business Wales that has got business support and advice available there. Maybe worth having a look on their website and having a look at what area you're looking for support in particularly. And we've already talked about it. Development Bank of Wales. I know that they're at the forefront of supporting local businesses in Wales as well. And maybe the Arts Council. I've actually have a few clients within the creative agency that have got funding through the Arts Council in order to provide workshops to community groups, etc., that kind of thing. And again, it's droning back to your local authority. So what's going on in your local area? What's available in your local area? We talked last time about that little barrier between you and as a business owner and the council, but
Yeah.
actually it's worth opening that door. Open the door and see
Yeah.
what is there and available to you. If it doesn't suit the needs, then that's okay. But at least you've checked off all your options before you make that decision. And again, it's building networks. I can't shout about it enough, I don't think, because having the right people around you is going to benefit you in business. It's going to uplift you when you have those hard days. It's also going to fill you with more knowledge, because what one person knows may be completely different to what the other person knows. And by having conversations, it's so basic, but it works. Us
Yeah.
having conversations outside of here, we've learned a lot about each other.
Oh, yeah, I'm learning.
We've learned about a lot of the different industries as well. And I think that is the best thing you can do if you're starting out in business right now, is to get out there, do your networking, get your face out there, get your branding out there on social, and do what you can. And what I tell some of my clients is use the free tools to your advantage.
Okay, cool. I think that pretty much wraps it up for this week's questions and answers episode of The Edit. And if you have any questions that you want to send in, just go to theeditwales@gmail.com. So email us at theeditwales@gmail.com, and we will see you next Tuesday.